Good morning, Jade.
Good morning, Jalynn.
Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me today. I'm excited.
So excited. Okay, so you were the owner of Oglewood Ave, and I think a lot of Knoxvillians have either come into your shop or seen you pop up. But would you just give us a quick little overview? What is your passion?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jade Adams. I'm the owner of Oglewood Avenue Plant Shop, and it's a plant shop that is centered around, you guessed it, houseplants. So indoor houseplants, succulents, cacti, nothing outdoor, no flowers, no shrubs, no seeds. But if you are into plants that strictly only live inside, then Oglewood Avenue could be a place for you. So.
It definitely is a place for you. You might not even know it yet. You'll find a plant that you love. So you have been sharing your green thumb with Knoxville for several years, and I personally have benefited from that, I can say. Totally hit you up and been like, my croton's dying, help. Yeah. But when did you discover that your thumb was green? Was this a childhood discovery, or when did you realize plants were your thing?
Yeah, no, so this is more of a recent passion, probably within the last 5 years, I would say. Mm-hmm. So I kind of found the passion, and I hit the ball running. I have a sort of addictive nature, so it was only suitable that I would find something and
pour it into plants.
Yeah, stick with it. And so plants just became that hobby. But it was at the last year of college that I really began to like plants. Started off with one. Figured out if I could keep it alive for a year. I was doing really well. Mm-hmm. So I used it as a self-care metric during college, because college, in your last year of college, is very stressful. So I kept a plant alive for a year, and then afterwards it became a Pokemon, collect them all. This one's a little bit different than the other, even though you have 5 of the same one at home, sort of thing.
Oh, for sure. But this one has a special leaf, a special stripe.
Yeah, this one's longer, but it's the same plant, and you're taking 3 of the same ones home. Mm-hmm. But the last year of college was when I really got into it, and then I graduated during 2019 when the pandemic happened.
Crazy times.
Then I just poured myself into plants, because that's what you do when you're stuck at home.
And I feel like during the pandemic, a lot of people found houseplants, or I don't know, it just became a thing. Yeah. But how have you kind of harnessed that and created a culture and a community around it in Knoxville specifically? It's kind of a really special thing to be able to get a plant from Oglewood Ave, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a super cool thing for me, because I feel like everyone was at home watching this business grow.
Yeah.
So I've had people who have been following the business model in Oglewood since it first started, when I was selling plants out of the house, to now seeing it as a brick and mortar 3 years later. So I feel like when you do come and you know the story, and you have watched it be bootstrapped from the ground up, and see the store change and add more things and grow and evolve, I think it feels like you're growing and evolving with it.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool when customers see the store when it had 2 tables to now it looks like an actual store. And so
it's an oasis in there.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's really cool that everyone has seen it. It's not just you buy a store and it's fully ready.
Right.
It was a baby, and now she's a toddler, and I think it's really cool that people kind of have seen it evolve in all these different stages.
Yeah.
So I think getting a plant from the store kind of adds to a story, rather than you just going in, buying a plant and leaving.
That's so
I think
true.
it has a rhyme and a reason for it, and it's really a special thing. I think people always come in and they're like, I remember when you used to give me a plant out of your car, and I'd be like, yeah, those were the good old days.
That was me.
That was me a couple years ago. So I think everyone kind of buys into, maybe not even the plant, but just seeing it grow, I think is a special thing.
Yeah. Where do you find your rare plants? Can you tell me the secrets?
Oh, it's Hunger Games. So I'm off on Mondays and Tuesdays, and I go to different states, surrounding states, and I beg growers to let me have their rare stock plants. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I just make really good connections with growers and plant people, and I just beg them if I find anything cool in their back greenhouses to let me have it.
That's amazing. I feel one of your strengths I've seen it, is building community through your business and just with clients and obviously even like business to business. How do you feel like you've been able to use social media, because there's a tribe following you on social media? How have you used that to build community?
Yeah, so it's fun because it all blew up my first year, and so I wasn't expecting the following of plants that that came. I thought it was like a hidden hobby, like a secret hobby. You're like, I only do this,
right?
Like no one else does this. And then when you put your hobby out, you're like, oh, there's a lot of us who like plants. And so I think it was cool since everyone did get into it during the pandemic. It became like a very trendy thing to get into, and I think now it's very much sustainable. And once you get plants in, you love plants. You're not gonna stop the hobby. But it's really cool that with now the community, now that we all do love plants, we can do plant swaps, right? So you bring a plant that you don't want, someone has a plant you do want, it's like currency and you switch. And so adding things like that, or classes or workshops where people can talk about plants, because the thing about it is, if you're not a plant person, it's going to sound like a foreign language if I'm rambling to you my collection of 100 at home and you don't know anything. You're just not
it's like all Latin names. Like, I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, people will be like, that's a cool leaf. And you're like, oh, okay. But if you add another plant person, then you're both excited and you get to share stories and talk about your favorites. And it is this like really niche community. And so when you do things like adding plant swaps or doing markets with other small business owners, that helps them out, or doing classes where the plant people now get to talk to each other, it does like build this like really cool sense of community around plants, which is so fun.
Which is really fun.
Which is really fun. It's like this whole world out there that you're a part of. So.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people might not get into the science and the deep down nitty gritty of like, okay, how do I actually make this plant thrive, or, cultivate this and help it to grow. But you have a background in science.
Yeah.
So was that kind of a push to get into plants, or has that helped you like understand the care and thriving of plants? Or?
Yeah, I think a little bit. So I come from a microbiology and chemistry background. So whenever it talks about like fertilizer, there's like NPK, there's like certain things that
letters to me.
Yeah, that I would know just because of that. I did more microbiology, so it is a little bit more things you can't see. Rather than botany, I waited a little too late to do botany. I was like, I think it was junior, and I was like, I can't change my major now.
Okay.
But I think botany would have been a better sense of my use of my time, but it's okay. But I know a little bit more because of it. But because I had that background, I really wanted to educate people.
Yeah.
So I think half of the store is you finding a pretty plant. I think the other half is me like rambling care tips so that you don't kill it when you get home. And so the one thing we do really well, in my opinion, is educate people. So whenever you get a plant, you at least know how to take care of it when you get home, rather than you getting it at a place and just not knowing what to do.
Exactly.
So because I have a little bit more background, I made it like my mission to educate everyone who comes in the store. Yeah. Maybe not as scientific, but I at least like mouth vomit things that everyone should know. Yeah, everyone should know. So I think it helped me a little bit. Or if there's a paper, I can kind of read it. But I think what's really helped is just trial and error. For every plant I can tell you about, I killed it 5 times or 10.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, at least 4 times I have decimated the plant. Yeah. And I just try again with like a different added element. So it's kind of like science, just kind of like my background is. So I kind of just tweak the experiment a little bit and then see what happens. So that's what I always tell people.
I'm curious how you feel about, I don't know if you've like noticed on iPhone, you can like point your camera at a plant and it like tells you what it is, and like you can, I don't know, it's almost like a AI experience with a plant. Yeah. Have you dug into that? How do you feel about it?
Sometimes it works.
Yeah.
I mean, like sometimes it's pretty accurate. Mostly for outdoor plants and garden stuff. Okay. Sometimes for indoor plants, it will just tell you like a generic name. Yeah. I feel like it's like 50-50. So at some point, someone's like, what is this? I'm like, I don't know. And I'll get it and use it. And I'll be like, this seems right. Or sometimes I'm like, this is not right. So it like teeters. You can only trust it as far as its limits.
Okay.
But I think it's really cool that it does that. And there's like apps too nowadays that like if you put your plant, it like gives you the notification to water all the time, and it like tells you which sun. So like it takes the guesswork out of it, which is pretty cool too.
That's
but
really
AI
cool.
is getting apps are getting there. It's like your at-home teacher too.
Okay, I want to take it back a little bit to understand the name of your shop and why you decided to call it Oglewood Avenue. What's special about the neighborhood that you're placed in, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I lived on a street called Oglewood Avenue. It is right beside the store. So people always will call and they're like, I'm on this street and I don't see the storefront. And I'm like, it is a minute away. Don't you worry. Yeah. But I was living on that street for the first year, and I was at home all the time like everybody else, and I had 300 houseplants that I didn't know what to do with, and everyone was like spring cleaning their places and doing all these at-home projects because we all had time. I don't have a lot. I had plants. I had 300 plants. It was just me and my plants. And
in an inside jungle?
Inside a jungle that was hidden that no one knew about except me. And so my mom came over one time, and she was like, this is a lot. Like your hoarding has gotten a little out of control. I don't have anywhere to sit in this house.
Like plants coming out the corner.
Yeah, she was like, this, like, what do you do all day? I'm like, this is what I do. And so,
that's hilarious.
And she was like, we should thin it down. Like, you can't possibly love all 300 plants.
You're like,
I do.
Actually.
Even the ones dying in the corner, like, I have an emotional attachment to this pot of soil.
Yes.
I'm not going to, like, kill it. And so she was like, we should just thin down. I was like, okay. So I picked like my top 50 or 70, and then the rest she was like, we should sell. So I did a Facebook group. It's called, it was called the title was Plant Sunroom Sale. And I posted it on Marketplace with all of these plants. Yeah. And then people loved it and adopted them, and they all have new homes. They all had names. I gave them a story. I'm like, this is Henry. He's from Detroit. I got him at a farmer's market.
He's from Detroit.
Please don't kill him. So I was getting rid of all these plants I had a very strong emotional attachment to. Yeah. And they would pick them up on my porch, which was Oglewood Avenue. So I made an Instagram just so people could, like, pick them up because I was selling a mass amount of them at a very fast time. So I just I named it my street name, and I put them on my porch if I wasn't there, and people would come to the house and pick them up, which looking back seems not smart, but hey, here we are. And so after that got done, the name just kind of stuck. It wasn't anything special. I didn't like think of a name for the storefront. It just kind of happened, which was the name of my street. And so
natural.
It was a natural fit. And whenever I found the store, I just couldn't bring myself to change the name at that point. Cause
Broadway doesn't really have that much of a
Broadway
ring.
plants. Yeah, I was like, it didn't really stick like Oglewood does. And so, and it's super close to the street that it's named about. And so it just seemed like a really nice fit.
I love that name. Okay, I feel like Knoxville can find stories about you pretty much anywhere. I mean, like New to Knox is not a story. Like there's stories out there. So if you want to deep dive, feel free to go do that. But what is something that maybe people wouldn't know about you?
Ooh,
that you'd like to share with the public?
Wouldn't know. That's it. I haven't got that question before. I don't know. Oh my
gosh, is this my Barbara Walters moment?
Oh my gosh, what do they not know about me? Let me think about it. I've never been asked that question. Now I'm sweating.
Okay.
What's something
if you could be an animal, what would you be?
Oh, when I was born, I was a pound and 3 ounces.
Are you kidding me?
And I have a 3rd kidney, so I don't drink as much water because it filters out. Yeah, there's 3 kidneys in here.
Wow.
Yeah.
A pound?
I was a pound. Yeah, I was born 3 months early, and I was a pound and 4 ounces, and I could fit in my mom's hand, and they didn't have clothes for me, so I had to wear Barbie clothes and like teddy bear clothes. So
no freaking way.
Yeah, I've been in the same shoes since 4th grade.
My gosh.
I just don't grow ever.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a pound. So that was pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Not you don't grow. You do grow.
Not my shoe size.
What is something to talk about growth and just, learning to thrive? What is something that you are learning right now, whether it's from the 100Knoxville program that you're implementing or just something in life that you're learning?
I am learning that you have to take the highs with the lows. I think I've been on such a high for a lot of years with business.
Yeah.
My story is one that you don't hear about often, with just how immediately people took to it.
Yeah.
And now I'm in more of a consistent level. And I think I was at a high for so long. I'm not used to being at a more gradual, consistent, like everyday check and grind.
Right.
And so I think I'm learning to take the craziness with maybe the steadiness, which I haven't really learned thus far. I'm always on 100%. I'm always go. I always want to be in the thick of it. And so taking a step back and like just letting Oglewood run as she is, without trying to like keep up with the Joneses of my mind of like, let's do an event every week, or
the race is sometimes mental, like internal. That's true.
And it's like I have to do this, and it's like, whoa, well, if you don't really, she's fine. Like it's fine. And so I think it's a growing pain for me to not want to like do it all and just sit back and be like, hey, let's plan one thing, or maybe let's do 2 this month. Like let's not grind at 100% at our maximum capacity all of the time. Like it is okay.
That's great.
And so
that's such a vital lesson.
Yeah, I've
never
to
like
learned
sustainably
continue
into the future.
It's more of a sustainable, not like all head on the hills and like you just can't do it for years. So I think it's that. Oh, and that I'm probably going to be a serial entrepreneur my entire life.
Can't get rid of that.
I realized that this year. I'm like, what can I do? What else can I be doing? Yeah. And so, I think it's growing pains, and then just like now it's like I think my career is going to be entrepreneurship in some capacity, which is really cool.
And we'll see how it unfolds.
Yeah, which is really cool to like have my creative juices like with Oglewood, but also like when she's grown, she's a toddler right now. We got some time, but when she's grown, what other things do you want to do? And like just start thinking past myself, which is kind of cool. Yeah,
that's really fun. Tell me about so 100 Knoxville. You went through the program, but now you've like circled back and like come back as a mentor. And so, what has that experience been like? Being able to not only go through it, but then like share that.
Yeah, 100 Knoxville is heels on the ground, really intense boot camp to be a part of, and it's super rewarding, and it tests your limits, and it tests your strengths, and it builds your foundation, and it's a great program. If anyone's ever interested, I would 100% recommend it. As a person who attended it, but I circle back and now I'm a mentor, and it's cool because I think I have a different perspective since I've already been through it. I just know kind of how rigorous it can be, but also how rewarding it can be. And so it's kind of like when you're
somebody's here.
It's kind of like when you are a student and then you become the teacher, you have both perspectives. And so sometimes it's easier for me to relate to the students and the cohorts that pass by. That's because awesome. I have been in your shoes, and it's like, look, I have done this before. I know how you're feeling, or this is how I allocated my funds, or this is like how it helped me. And so I feel like it's a nice like friendship perspective, where it's like, come with me. I've walked this path before. I've walked this path before. Take my hand. And so it's a cool perspective to be able to be on both sides, and now like also help other people who are like in my shoes.
Tell me one way that Knoxville can support you right now. What's one thing you would ask?
Ooh, well, other than buying a plant, which I think is the best way to support me,
always,
and the store, I would say. What's one way Knoxville can support me? Well, we're going to roll out Janice, and Janice is my pop-up shop.
Janice! That's right, I got to meet Janice.
You got to meet Janice, but we're going to roll her out a lot in the summer and the fall. And so the best way is if you're out and you see Janice, to come say hi.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it's more of like a mobile on-the-go addition that we're adding. So if you don't want to come to the plant store will come to you at just
Find
different
you.
places. Yeah, we'll find you one way or another to buy a plant. But if you see Janice out, stop by and say hi,
Come
or
say
see what plants are in the mobile pop-up shop if you're not going to
Love
just
it.
around town. So.
Super fun. Okay. Thanks so much for coming to talk with me. It
Well,
was
thank
fun.
you. I had a blast.